Evening everybody, and welcome to a bit of a bulk or perhaps mop-up video. As you can see, we've got 4 models here from the Meccano Multimodels 10 model set from sort of autumn 2013. For me, the best multi-model set for many a year, although there's no motor in the set. On the whole, they're good models, they're fairly solid models. The quad is very solid. Not all the models are perfect and easy to build. There are a couple of, I say easy, there's nothing that hard, but you know, there's a couple of fiddly bits and there's just a couple of things, oh, that could have been done better. And indeed, with a couple of them, I've had to change a couple of things as I go to make the models work, although I've used no extra parts. It's all been done what's in the set. So before we have a closer look at each of these 4 models from the set, we've got the dumper truck, this one here. That's been done before on its own video about over a year ago now, I think. It was ruined by a legally used free soundtrack, or bit of it, that I used on the video, and I don't know, maybe 6 months after the video was done, the soundtrack had wiped over the whole of my soundtrack, and this music was on the whole of the video, and at the end of the video, even if the soundtrack had finished the music, it was just blank basically, although the pictures are still there. Silent movie if you like now, I suppose, well, or a pointless movie now really. I'll leave it on, it's in the multi-models playlist. So I only have the notes for one of these models, so this is all a bit from memory, and some of those models have been built quite a lot. All of them have been shown at an exhibition or 2. The plan was to build all of the construction type models, and to be honest, this is really it. It would have been nice to build all the models, but some don't appeal very well. I mean, there's a car on the box here, that don't appeal really. But these are all solid models. Some do a bit more play value with some than others. There were a few niggly bits of build where things could have been done better with the parts in the set, and indeed in some cases I've done that. And we'll go into a little bit more detail from what I can remember anyway. But yeah, great set. You may still find it around odd places. Off the top of my head, although it's going to be more by luck than any judgment at all now, you'll probably, well, not probably, there's a chance you might get it at Hobbycraft. There's also a small independent shop in Stafford, toy shop, off the high street, this pedestrianised now, before you get to the main square. One of these sets, which might even be this one, come from there. It was only 20 quid from there. A set, even though I've got, I think that's 5 or 6 left, and I've dug into, I don't know, it's 3 or 5 others of these sets for a Land Rover project I'm building, which is temporarily stored like several other projects, because I wanted the colour. I like the colours, they sort of appeal to me. I suppose it's because that's, or in part it's similar from what I used to use as a kid, and it seems to me it seems to stick with you a little bit. So 4 decent models. Dumper truck is the best. The quad is very nice looking, although out of proportion with others. I suppose none of them are really in proportion really to themselves. But nice models. On the whole, about 2 hours to make on average, maybe about an hour and a half, because I'll be making notes as I go. We'll have a bit of a closer look. We'll recap on the dumper truck, and then we'll go through the others. So here we go, folks, with the dumper truck, and the model that probably has the most play value, because it does a few things. Obviously, all these models are on wheels. All but one are on 4 wheels. So, as you can imagine, oh, we've got a dent in it now. As you can imagine, to and fro. No problem with that at all. Basic, standard, common to garden. Every set has loads of wheels. Well, nearly every set. A few differences just lately. So when you do buy several multi-model sets, especially from about 7 months ago and before, you'll collect loads and loads of wheels with different style tyres maybe. You'll either get these semi-chunky ones, the sort of almost slick ones, and the chunkier ones which are about twice the thickness of these. So, dumper truck, what does it do? Well, as I said, there's no motor, but we do have a nice tipping action of the dumper itself. And it seems a little bit slacker than it used to be. But it just about holds there. I think it's going to drop. Well, we might get away with it. You can see it tips up, and I adjusted the nylock nuts so it holds its weight. Although it probably needs a tweak now. Well, I say that, it's going to come apart soon. Even though I love this model, I'm getting a bit snowed under at the moment. And I say love it. I mean, you might say, well, why? It's pretty basic. It's just good. It's good form. It's got a few functions. It's fairly, well, I don't think there's anything hard about the build at all. And basically it works. There is one slight, I need to think of another word when it's not really much of an issue. It's just a bit of a little bit of a problem. But more on that later. So what else we got? Well, it articulates as well, as you can see there. And again, the nylock nut's been done so it's tight enough to turn without being too lanky, because it is on there, the bottom angle bracket there. That's it's through the slotted hole, so you could have a little bit of play there. The only issue with the model, well, I don't want to really use that issue, and looking at it, this is a bit dusty, was the you can probably see, just turn it a little bit that way, you can see how close the front mud guards are to the front wheels. Now, as built, those front formed slotted strips there, they actually touch the wheel, and obviously that's no good. And all it required was just a very slight tweak to get it off, as you can see, to get it off the tyre. Other people have moved the axle completely back one hole, which you could do. I don't know if they'd look even better. Perhaps probably a bit short on the wheelbase, a bit front heavy maybe. I don't think it makes much difference. So yeah, great model that. Does everything it should. Built about an hour and a half, maybe a little bit more. No issues really. That business with the mudguards, front wings, wheel arches, whatever you want to call them, that's the only slight thing. And I don't know, they missed that one to be honest, but solid, stays together, and it's been together for, trying to think, I think it was first displayed February last year, so it's probably built early 2014. So yeah, lovely model, plenty of play value, nice little bit of detail as well. You obviously got the grille, but you've got like the, I presume that's an air filter cover. You've got a bit of a seat as well, just in the cab. I'll show you the front there. In there you've got a bit of a cab seat. So basic detail, but decent effort. I mean, more than decent effort. Very good indeed. One of the best models I've made. Certainly other models do more, some do less, but overall, very good model. So next one up, then the forklift truck, and I can't remember if I made this one after the dumper truck or not, but anyway, as you can see, forklift truck, quite chunky, perhaps a little oversized compared to the dumper truck, but solid enough. Nice bit of detail again with the basic detail. We have you can see a seat in there, and the mud guards follow the front wheels very nicely indeed. Front wheel arches, so whatever you want to call those. The problem with this one was, again, it was a alignment or catching issue with the wheels, but this time it's the rear axle. If I recall correctly, it was shown with the axle one hole further forward, threaded through 1L further forward, ½ inch further forward, and of course no way is going to clear those. And a bit of thought, I may have rejigged the chassis underneath a little bit, but so I've lost my notes. But yeah, expect to have a little bit of a play with the rear axle and the location of it in the chassis. You may have to tweak the chassis a little bit. It's not a lot really, and there's no extra parts needed. Frustrating though. The only other thing with the model, it doesn't do a lot. There's no movement of the front forks anywhere, and all the model does is just, as you can see, roll there like that. So doesn't do a great deal. Solid model. Nothing much to say about it apart from the rear axle issue, alignment there. I was considering trying to make at least the forks move up and down by using this as like a channel or a track, if you like, and then perhaps I don't think there's any string included in these sets. Some of the slightly older sets, you've got a lot of a bag of tools, drive bands, springs and string or Meccano cord, which you could have used. It was sort of like standard issue really for several sets. I just put those bags in there, very useful. But there's no string if I recall right, so that would mean add in parts, i.e. the cord. So I never went that way, and plus there were some parts left over in that set that I've used on the Land Rover project that I'm doing. So it sort of didn't happen. I don't think it'd take much to improve it, but you'd have to add at least some cord. So folks, here we have the road roller, and a very solid road roller it is. These brace girders, shall we say bent or formed brace girders, because folded brace girders maybe, angled, whatever. As you can expect, those are quite flimsy on their own, but this is a nice construction, and bear in mind that most of the construction of the chassis, it's all this end really, there's only the axle this end for strength, but it is, I'm squeezing on that and it ain't moving. It's very, very strong. Now, a nice, again, little bit of basic detail. We've got a seat, nicely formed shaped cab. The use of the through 1, 2, 3, 6-hole strip there across in there that forms the link is very nicely done, because it also acts as a stop, so it doesn't jackknife. See it? Yeah, you can, just inside there. Acts as a stop there. That's nicely done. Again, we've got the nylock nut there, suitably not too lanky, so it flops, but loose enough to move nicely. Rear axle construction is not bad actually. When I put it together to start with, or starting to put it together, oh my life, this is going to be awful, sticking out miles, but it's not too bad at all. You got the little obtuse, narrow 1 inch by ½ inch brackets there, and with that there, it's not too bad at all. Does give it a reasonable look to it all. This one's very dusty. But there was more of a problem with this model, or maybe an error in the instructions, regarding the roller. As you can see, it's formed of 3 plastic hubs, or the wheels if you like, held together by fitting the 2 tyres. Well, that ain't a problem, that's quite solid as it is. But the way it tells you in the instructions means that if you follow theirs, it means that the roller's to one side or the other. And okay, you probably get the odd spare rubber grommet or an odd spare collar in with the parts. Can't remember exactly what you got now or whether they was used at all, but just a bit of thought, you can put it together using the parts available, so that the roller, the front roller, stays in the middle nicely, rotates nicely, and is a lot more aesthetic than if it's stuck to one side. So basically what we've got here, we've got axle through the middle, that the axle itself through the drum formed by the 3 hubs and the 2 tyres. That's as the book. But here you've got one plastic collar, the large one. I'll move that out of the way, it's a bit big that there. Which is the first one inside the frame. Then you've got a rubber grommet, and then you've got another plastic collar inside. And it's the same the other side. You got collar, a plastic collar, plastic spacer, rubber grommet, and then another plastic spacer inside, and that gives you spot on positioning for the roller. Now this one almost as good as the dumper truck for things that it does. Obviously it goes forward and back and it articulates, but obviously there's no tipping or anything like that. But a pretty solid model, even though it's really just a strip holding it together. Yeah, there is a bit of play there if you force it, but it's pretty damn good really. It was one of those models that I thought, I was a bit surprised. It was like starting to come together. I thought this ain't going to be much cop, but it is. It's solid, and nothing's fell off it, nothing's come loose. Nor indeed the other two, the dumper truck or the forklift. So folks, here we have the last model. As you can see, it's a rather smart looking quad. Well, I think so anyway. A neat construction, not really major issues. The zinc's a bit thin, which is sort of a running thing these days, I think. A bit stained, perhaps a bit marked, but no rust, anything like that. I wouldn't then say there's any problems with this really. Just have to be careful in places. One of the things, when you come to put the seat together, just here, be careful of the angles and the alignment of the obtuse angle brackets there. You may get a slight distortion of the angle brackets. You might start to just flatten slightly, only very slightly, mainly because the proximity of the edges here of the this I suppose one-sided obtuse flange plate there. You know, I'd have thought I got used to this camera like doing it backwards by now, but anyway, there you go. So there, that edge there, they tend to force down a little bit. So be careful, leave it a bit loose till you get to fixing all the parts there for adjustment. The same regarding alignment at the front bumper. You can see the front bumper, and it's pretty straight now, mainly because these 5-hole strips here, or the one 5-hole strip and the double bent strip there, they're fitted on the outside of the forks there, which means they're slightly wider apart, and it can mean that'll distort. So leave these bolts at the front loose and adjust as much as you can. Get it all in line first before you finally tighten them up. I was quite well impressed really by the construction of the chassis. Very neat job there, very neat indeed. Using a couple of perhaps uncommon or uncommon, I suppose, technique, using the angles to form the frame for the seat and the back end. Very clever, getting the angles right with the right strips in the set. Maybe it's more luck than judgment, but let's try and show you. You see there the strips at angles, and of course you've got it at the front as well there. So all very neat indeed, and went together well. There's only one thing that could have been done better in the set, no problem whatsoever. Lots of spaces left over and quite a few other parts. As built, the rear axle stuck out quite a bit from the wheel, so I just added extra spacers in at the back. The large plastic spacer collar, whatever you want to call that. Just there's only one each side. I added two each side, and it's just right then, as you can see. Just got a little bit of axle sticking out, so the grommet ain't going to fall off. But as you can see, it goes forward and backwards. It's a nice model, solid, really solid. But there's one thing that could have been improved, and that's the steering, or the lack of it. It does steer. There's no doubt about that. It steers. But as you can see, it's very limited. Now, all that to do, if I remember correctly, in the set there's another 5-hole strip left there, and all that to do was to add that 5-hole strip on top of there with the rearmost hole in this hole here, ½ inch further forward, just thus giving more clearance between, well, it's the headstock I suppose really. Trying to shoe you there, you see it catching just inside here, up there. So that is the only oddity, I should say, really, because the parts, it's only like one part, and you could use the same bolts, nuts and bolts. So do you like the model? Looks the part, if you like. So there you are, folks. 4 models from the 10 model multi-model set from about well, about 18 months ago now. I've got an instruction book here. It's a bit floppy. It's decent quality, mine. Well, there we go. As you can see, there's a car, a couple of cars. There's a plane. That's 6 of the models. What else have we got? Of course, some of these you'd have to download. In fact, some of these here, the road roller I had to download the instructions for. And we have a buggy, some sort of plane, weird looking plane, and a helicopter as well. Instructions are pretty good. There's the issues with black things like collars not standing out very well, but of course that's been looked at now, and generally it's been improved with the white outline. I'll just open a page. Right, on that page. Ah, here we go. Yeah, there's a page building the dumper truck. It's not too bad actually with the black parts, because a lot of the parts are shown as the zinc parts shown as a medium grey, as you can see. So very clear generally. No real issues with the layout as such. It's all quite clear, decent sized and everything. So there you are. I do liken these, and again it's the colour really, to the 1970s highway and super highway multi-kit sets. Dumper trucks, cement mixers, I think there's a road roller, it might be I think there's a breakdown crane. Of course, tracked vehicles in the super highway kit, no tracks in the standard highway kit, which I do have a highway kit. We'll be looking at that shortly. My intention was to do a sort of a modern highway set using some of these models and then building some of my own as well, putting them together. But you know, other things happening. I'm getting a bit snowed under in models, so we're gonna take some apart. I might leave the dumper truck together, I do like that, but the quad's nice as well. They're all pretty good. Just really the lack of play value in the forklift that's really its downfall, if you like, on that one. So nice models. The paint finishes are pretty good, can't recall any issues with that. The zinc is a bit thin, common really. No real major issues on the builds. Easily got around the few little things that do crop up, like the roller being off centre. The rear axle on the forklift shown either in the wrong hole or there's something else regarding the body, if you like, is not quite right on the diagrams, but nothing that you can't work out with about 5 seconds. You shouldn't have to do that, of course, but you know, to me, no model is a complete failure unless you can't get it working with the parts in the set, without adding more parts, of course. And I know it shouldn't be, because for a newbie it probably is a complete failure, because it has to be easy and flowing for the build and have play value with the model afterwards, to my mind. So there you are, 4 of the 10 models. We've got another quad coming up soon. Bit of a belting quad, really. I mean, it really is not perfect now, but a lot of fun and the best sync I've ever seen, any set, new or old. And I mean going back to the first zinc plated stuff. Excellent, almost mirror finish. Just lucky, I guess, on that one. That's for the future. So I'll be digging some more stuff out. We've got sets to look at, we've got set models to look at, we've got some older multi-models, we've got some newer multi-models. We'll have some of the new line, the Meccano Maker system as well. We've got some more ordered coming in of those. So just to remind you folks, Telford and Ironbridge Meccano Society at Blisshill, Victorian Town, just under 2 weeks time, 15th and 16th of August, Saturday, Sunday, and the following weekend, 22nd, 23rd of August, Meccano on display, inside and probably outside the goods shed. Normal admission charges apply, of course. Hope to see you there. I'll put a link in the description.